What's up, golf friends? This is Jim Colton, and this is the Driven Golf Podcast. This is episode 26. We're here with the super producer on the road, Joseph K. What's going on, Joseph?
Hey, Jim. Not much. How are you, sir?
Calling in from parts unknown. Obviously, you have a life outside of producing podcasts, outside for caddying for some of the best amateurs in the world. You actually have a day job. But this is a really exciting episode for us. This is actually, the month of September is a very interesting month for us, I think, personally. My wife and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary earlier this month. You just had your 6th anniversary not too long ago. You're much younger than I am, so congratulations on that. But more importantly, episode 26, every 2 weeks, 26 times 2, if I believe it's 52 weeks, we celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the Driven Golf Podcast. They doubted us. They didn't think we could make it this far. The haters were hating, but here we are. We're standing here 1 year later. So think about how far we've come, Joseph. What's been your observation over this past year?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's been an adventure for sure. I think that looking back on it, we've met some incredible people. We've interviewed some of the most interesting people in the game of golf. Some of the most driven, if you if you could use that word, in the game of golf. And I think it's been an incredible journey. And then I'm honestly just excited for the next year. And I think I just had I had something come across my feed that kind of made me chuckle. It was it's been a 5-year anniversary since Scotty Scheffler won his second Korn Ferry Tour event, which basically vaulted him into the PGA Tour. So who knows where we'll be in 5 years, Jim? But I think we've got a bright future ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the messages and emails are coming a little bit more regularly than they did when we first started. So, and all positive. I think people are being impacted listening to the episodes, listening to the angle of attack. Andrew couldn't be here, but he's been a huge part of this as well, this team that we've tried to build, and it's helped kind of build his social media as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think just onward and upward from here. So, one of those driven individuals we've got here in episode 26. It's very, very timely. The USGA Mid-Am is next week, and we've got one of the star Mid-Ams from the U.S. Amateur, Bobby Massa, Dallas, one of our own here. You probably saw him on TV advancing really far in the U.S. Amateur, went extra holes with Ballester, who ended up winning, but hits it a mile. He's 36 years old, doesn't really play that often, and he has a very, very interesting journey that Andrew and he spoke at length about. So what was your takeaway on the Bobby Massa interview?
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Bobby is a unique character. He's unlocked, I think, what a lot of golfers are chasing during this game, or as you play this game. It's in distance at a high level is hard to come by. Some people that struggle with, hitting it straight will relate to this episode, but he's found a way to power through a lot of struggles that he's had and through the game, and just you can hear that his dedication to his craft and working to get better is apparent. And credit to him, he's, like you said, he made it very far in the USAM, and I think he's played in the Byron Nelson, and I can't wait to see his career progress and what he does next, honestly.
Yeah, he's got a really interesting background. He first sort of came on sort of my radar when he qualified. He was in the Monday qualifier that my son was in for last year's Byron Nelson, and he won that qualifier, shot really, really low. So I tracked him through that, and I've been seeing his name pop up from time to time. The amazing thing about the Mid-Ams when you see them compete in the USAM, and he's talking about really only playing in 3 events a year. The State Am, which he was in, I think he was maybe 14th at Trinity Forest this year. Qualified for the USAM, and then the Mid-Am. The good news is he's already qualified for next year's USAM, so we'll see him again. But I think the Mid-Am, I'm really excited to see. I think he advanced pretty far last year, and he seems to be playing really well. So it'll be interesting to see how well he does in that. But just the fact that somebody who only plays a few times a year and doesn't really practice or hit balls or, spend hours on the driving range, you're playing against these college and elite amateurs who are really like their future pros, and their only job is to be good at golf. Like that is their job. He's got a family, he's got work responsibilities like training other athletes, and just squeezing in golf when he can. He's like, I play once a week and maybe go to the driving range once a week, and he's still able to play at an extremely elite level. It helps if you have like a 190 plus ball speed, but he's really found a way to harness that power and really simplify his game in order to play his best. So a lot to take in addition to some of the overcoming the mental hurdles that he talks about. So just a little bit of disclosure. We didn't bleep them out, but if you don't like the Y word, it's a 4-letter word that's in this episode. It comes up from time to time. So you may want to cover your ears on that part. But I think it's worth listening to see the journey that he's been on and what he's been able to overcome for sure. Speaking of high level golfers, the category that we're getting into on angle of attack is really this elite category. So we start the sessions of getting from the 72 scoring average to the 70 scoring average. And we're talking the best of the best junior golfers or even amateur golfers out there. And, we're just kicking this off, like just starting this discussion with Andrew, just talking about like the level of conviction and commitment that's required in order to start taking those steps. And also plugging kind of the use of stats in order to get there and having that conversation with your coach. So I'll leave it at that, but like that's what we're covering in Angle of Attack on this episode, and hopefully people can get out of it. It's the first of hopefully many episodes we'll have on this topic of just like getting from that 72 scoring average to 70. So in any case, my wife wanted to make cupcakes for the three of us. Logistically, it would have been tough getting them to Arkansas and getting them to Andrew, who's taking care of his daughters, and here. But anyway, so virtual cupcake for you, Joseph. Happy anniversary, and just thanks for being on this journey over this 1 year, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, happy anniversary. Cheers. Can't wait for more to come.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bobby Massa, what's up, man?
Yo, not much.
Welcome to the Driven Golf Podcast.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm selfishly excited because I've heard your name for a long time, but we've never really connected. I've seen you. I've literally seen you at events like the Pro Scratch last year. I think you were playing behind me and probably like hitting your hybrid relative to where my driver was. So
yours was probably in the fairway. Mine probably wasn't.
I don't. It was at Merida, so it wasn't. Even if it was, it didn't really matter. But
What a
so
golf
yeah,
course, huh?
I love that golfer. Actually, we're gonna go out to the. We're definitely gonna go to the Live event in a couple weeks.
Are you?
This is probably when this will be released. So for sure.
I think they kind of moved the holes around from what I saw.
Did okay.
I think
haven't been out there since we played.
I just saw a video on it, and number 18's like number 14 or maybe 15 now.
They must be doing that for like crowd flow or something like that.
Have to be.
Yeah.
Have to be. But yeah,
Merida is great. It's very, very hard. I love getting my teeth kicked in.
That's what it does.
I mean, you guys won, right?
Yeah, we did that. I mean, that was like 2 years ago, something like that. Yeah. It's really just T-ball. If you hit the T-ball good out there, you can play. But if you're struggling, you're shooting 80 every time.
Yeah, we played okay. I think we didn't ham and egg it quite a bit. So anyways, we've never really chatted, so I'm excited to get to talk with you.
Same.
Just because, these last couple of years, which we'll definitely dive into, you've just played some incredible golf. And I'm not going to say out of nowhere. I mean, you've had a good career, but like of late, like it's like, wow, some of the stuff you've done is definitely eye-opening to where I'm sure a lot of people are like, what's going on with this cat? I mean,
I took
in his mid-30s.
It took about a 7-year hiatus with the swing yip. So
we'll definitely dive into that.
It was a grind to say the least.
So walk me through your like golf origin, how you got into it. Dad played, mom played.
Dad and stepdad both played. Not I wouldn't say great, but not bad. My stepdad was very into it. He was probably a low 80 shooter at best. But he was like loved to do it. And as soon as I kind of like got started with it, I was like, I played a lot of other sports. I played baseball and basketball. Basketball being my first love for any sport by far. And then I guess just the team aspect of it. I love the team aspect of it, but I also am, I guess, more selfish in the aspect like I always wanted to shoot or I always wanted the ball in my hand. So I picked a sport where there's nobody else. It's all you. It's whether you are playing good or playing bad. It's a lonely island when it's bad, but it's great when it's good. So, and then I just kind of gravitated to keep doing it. It was hard. So I guess I enjoyed the challenge of it when I was young. We didn't really have a club we were a part of or anything like that. So the course that we played growing up was we played Sunset Golf Course, which is no longer a course anymore. It's just a 9-hole track. It was in the Dallas area. I couldn't even tell you where it was. I was so young the last time I played
I've heard of it, but I don't think I remember where it was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. Looking back at it, it was not great, but I didn't know any better. I wasn't playing any nice golf courses, so it's just what I knew. And then we go to Twin Wells, now Irving Golf Club, every now and then on like Fridays because they had like Twilight and Fridays after 3. But I kind of started playing like, I guess the first tournament I was 12. So I had played a little bit with my dad and my stepdad, maybe once or twice a month and just go hit balls here and there. But nothing like serious when I was young. I was playing other sports. Like I said, I was playing basketball and baseball, whatever season it was going, and golf was just kind of in the middle of everything, just kind of like sporadically throwing it. And then once I started playing more and got more interested in it, then it was definitely the prime focus, even though I was playing the other sports, of just like always wanted to practice, whether it's go to the driving range or whatever, just to kind of not even necessarily get better. I just enjoyed doing it. So I just kept doing it. And then once you start competing and playing tournaments, and we started NTPGA stuff when I was young. I don't even know what there is now. I know there's a Legends Tour and obviously the AJGA stuff, but I didn't play my first or try to qualify for my first AJGA, I think, until I was like 16. I may have played 2 or 3 AJGAs as a junior. I wouldn't say that we had the most money coming up, and it was just, that's impossible if you just expensive. If you don't have the funding to do it. So, but yeah, I played as much as I could, I guess you would say, in the NTPGA stuff and whatnot, which I enjoyed. I didn't even know about the other stuff, to be honest with you, when I was young. You kind of find out as you go, as you start playing with better players, whether it's guys in the NTPGA that also play the AJGA and they talk to you about it and they tell you about it. So once I started learning about that, as I got a little bit better, my mom would try to put me in more events or qualifiers just to kind of see where I was at. Not necessarily, I don't think, for her in the aspects of me playing college, just what I wanted to do. So she's just being a good parent and doing what your son wants to do.
When did you specialize in golf and give up the other stuff?
My parents kind of made me pick a sport in high school. Because I had an older brother, Cody, that also played golf. And then we just didn't have any time for anything else at that point, because my parents also like to go camping and do things as well. So with the other sports, it was like, it's time for you to pick whatever sport you're going to focus on. And that's what I just chose golf. I was tiny in high school. If I would have been bigger,
really?
If I would,
you're 6'2" now, right? I mean, you're
And going into my freshman year, I was 4'11", 95 pounds. Oh my
gosh, you're kidding! Oh my gosh.
I was very late bloomer. So I was under 5 feet tall until I guess I was 5'2", finishing my sophomore year of high school. Okay. And then I grew like a foot between junior year and then all the way into college, like sophomore year of college.
You're giving my son a lot of hope right now. I was not. I kind of bloomed more early. I'm guessing you don't have this answer. Any idea what your club head speed was when you were 5 feet tall?
No, not fast. Okay. Not fast.
And how far were you carrying it? Any idea? I can give you the ballpark.
Man. I bet I was probably I bet I was swinging it close to 100 miles an hour.
Oh, that would be very fast for 5 feet tall. Yeah, very fast.
And so the biggest part of hitting it far is genetics. For anybody that's listening or whatever.
We'll get into that for sure, because I got to pick your brain.
Fast twitch fibers, and your parents genetically having fast twitch fibers, it naturally carries over. Yeah, sure, there's technically ways to swing it faster than other.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you have a lot of fast twitch fibers and you learn to swing the club when you're under the age of 15, you're more than likely going to hit it pretty far.
Yeah.
After you get over the age of 17, 18, and you start golf, the body just doesn't move the same. It's a harder process to pick up unless you played baseball and you have a small background with that. Then you have a slight chance. But other than that,
real quick before we go into like college stuff, you see these guys that are, I mean, you see NFL players. I think you train some of them,
right?
But then they get a golf club in their hand and they literally can barely swing it, yet they can, run a 4.3. Do you see the correlation there, or am I off? That they can't swing something fast because of, let's say, they didn't grow up playing any racket sports or anything.
That's
like
right. It's more hand-eye coordination of like you have to. I would say that you develop speed when you're not strong as a kid because your body has to do the work for you. And as you grow up into it, your body's still moving like a kid, but now you have some power that you can kind of add a little bit more to it. And when you get older, everybody just tries to hit it with their arms if they didn't play sports growing up, especially the athletes. Most of, whether it's football or basketball guys, they didn't play a lot of baseball or a lot of like stick ball sport. So the hand-eye coordination is not there. So correct. So
even
usually
lacrosse, I would think nowadays, like lacrosse would probably be a decent.
It helps a little, but you need to hit the ball with something. So usually hockey and baseball, and for the most part, those players tend to be better at golf when they transition over. I mean, obviously you have your outliers like Romo, and even Aaron Rodgers is decent. Some of the football guys can do it, but they played baseball growing up. It's not like they just didn't play baseball and then they just grab a golf club and hit it.
I would think the kinematic sequence, not to get in like the weeds, of like throwing something is pretty similar to like how someone might hit something, to where they probably have the sequencing down to, if I can throw something 95 miles an hour, like a baseball, I'm sure the average NFL quarterback can probably throw 90 to 95 miles an hour a baseball, that they probably are much better off. Maybe not as well as like Barry Bonds. I'm so outdated using Barry Bonds, but
no, he's the best of all time. So it's kind of hard not to.
Steroids or not. We can. I definitely want to dive a little bit more into that. So you were playing in high school. You're not playing a ton of AJs. To answer your question, I feel like 20 years ago when you were playing, the scope was a lot smaller relative to now. I mean, there are national tours besides the AJGA. I mean, the NTPGA, TJGT, Legends, Hurricane Tour. I mean, there's all this stuff around here. So it sounds like you were just kind of playing the NTPGA, maybe dabbled in the AJs. I mean, these kids nowadays, they're playing a professional schedule. They're traveling. Yeah. I mean, I coach multiple kids who are gone the entire summer playing things. So it's changed quite a bit. But so when you were thinking about like going and wanting to play in college, like what did that look like for you back then?
I guess so. My freshman year of high school, I actually had a pretty good freshman year. Like I won district as a freshman. And then kind of, I don't know, I was playing, my brother's 2 years older than me. So I'm always competing with him regardless of, because he played as well. And it wasn't necessarily, I didn't know where I stood in like Texas or anything like that. I was just playing to get better. And then some of these tournaments, you start seeing some of your scores holding up, whether it's a top 20 or whatever it is in high school. And I didn't know high school golf is basically meaningless. At the time, I didn't have any idea about that. I just play any tournament that I got into. You just try to play as good as you can and see what happens. But I guess it became more of a reality of seeing some of these other kids that were getting ready to go to college, and I'm playing against them in high school. I'm like, oh, maybe I will go play. And I love to play. So as soon as I was, I guess, the middle of my freshman year, I was like, I think I want to try to like do this, not necessarily just go to college. I was like, I would love to just do this forever. That'd be the best thing ever. So I guess that's kind of where my mindset was. So I was just practicing to try to get better. I had a swing coach at the time who was great. He only tried to help me. His name is Kenny Huff. He's not in the golf business anymore. But he did everything he could to help me from what he knew. He was a Haney guy. Looking back, I wish I wouldn't have gone that route necessarily.
Hot sports opinions.
I'm not.
We can talk about that too.
Please. I don't know. I guess I've kind of dabbled a lot into the golf swing, especially when I was struggling with the yips. So I just have my theories and what I think, especially I think that the Haney method works really, really well with people that don't swing it fast. People that swing it harder, I think with the forearm rotation, if you create any angle with a forearm rotation, you are done. And that's, in my opinion, a la Tiger Woods kind of driver yips as when he went to Haney. And I didn't kind of realize that until I got way deep into the woods.
Yeah, probably not going to realize that in high school. Yeah,
no,
sure.
No. And I didn't quite have the speed, so I could still play good when I was little. And then when I started growing into it, then I was hitting it really far at first when I kind of hit puberty and matured. And golf got really hard because I was never in play.
When did the speed finally show up?
And as soon as I grew. So basically the end of my junior year, senior year, and the speed training aspect of it, what I know now is like when I was so little, I was getting everything out of it that I could because I was playing against kids way bigger than me. So I was just trying to keep up in a sense, which helped me a lot when I grew to hit it far, is because I'm just like swinging as hard as I can. And you're basically training fast twitch constantly when you're playing. And then when you grow into it, and now I'm like, can't control it. I'm hitting it so far and it's just going all over the place. But I always chipped and putted it good, even when I was young. It saved me my whole, whether it was college or high school and everything. It always kind of, even when I was struggling, hit a bunch of balls out of play, I could still shoot around par because the par fives, if I was in the hole, then I could get up and down a lot. And if I was ever around the green, I felt like my up and down percentage was really high just because I putted it good. So once you kind of straighten it out, I definitely did a few good things. When the golf course, it was usually always golf course dependent for me. If the golf course was like not Maryville, basically, then I felt like I could score because I would hit it 50 yards line. As long as I can find my ball, I felt like I could make par. You play some of these courses.
Go play Rangers.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Go play Rangers.
Yeah.
Go play Tribute.
But I play a real golf course or a championship style golf course. When I had all of that, I was very inconsistent because I'd shoot 80 with a real golf course, and then a golf course that was a little more room, not even necessarily like wide fairways. It was more just not out of bounds. Just if I could just be in the trees and make a shot and go make par, then it was fine. But if
that's an incredible mindset. I mean, you know, so many people like want to show up to things that I coach that they want to be like fully prepared, right? Everything's on go. You're kind of showing up like, as long as I can just find my ball.
That's right.
I'm gonna be good. That's awesome. I mean, there's some, you know, the bar is not. I'm not saying it's low, but it's like, you know, you don't need it. You don't need it to be perfect to go shoot a good round, which is, I think, it's very attractive. I mean, you're probably not going to go shoot 20 under.
No,
but you can go shoot even par.
Right, and it would always catch up with me. It would always catch up with me. I mean,
it's funny.
I didn't want to hit it sideways, but it's just what was happening. So I was just like constantly. When I practiced, I rarely practiced putting in short game. It was pretty much always ball striking because I knew if I could hit it decent, then I could play good. But it was just so tough for me to ever find it. It was.
And you were taking lessons at the time? Like
I was.
Fairly consistent?
Yeah, pretty consistent.
Did you feel like when you were taking the lessons, you would leave and you would fairly quickly be pretty lost on like what the problem was?
It became so I kind of identify the problem way later in life, but when I had all that form rotation tournaments, I would always be nervous because I'm hitting it so far and everything's in play for me. Whether it's like out of bounds could be 60 yards right, but I still see it because I know I can hit it 60 yards right. So I would always be a little bit more nervous and I go a little bit faster. And anytime that you start having all of that angle and rotation, you go faster, it creates more angle and it gets farther underneath you and it goes farther right. So the more that I started learning, I started playing with, I could never not be nervous or not be anxious when I was playing. And I fought it for years of just like, man, if I could just calm down. So to answer your question is like, when I was going to these lessons, I didn't have any nerves or anxiety when I was just on the driving range. You get in a rhythm and you're hitting it pretty good. And you go to a golf tournament, it's like a different sport. You're like playing a completely different thing. My timing is way different. So on the driving range, I felt like I'd get a handle on it. And then as soon as I go play it would never hold up. And that's basically the kind of the routine that we would go in when I was seeing this guy at the time. It was just constantly, I would really grind hard, and I would practice a lot, and I feel like I'd be in an okay place. And as soon as I go play for anything that mattered, it would fall apart. It would crumble.
And it would probably only take one shot too for like
That's it.
all of
That's
all of the equity that you built up
Yep.
to be completely drained, because now you're like, well, it just showed up and it may show up again, especially
That's
on
right.
holes that you don't like or anything like that. Yeah, I think a lot of people can probably relate to that sentiment, because it is different once you get in that environment. And I think there are ways to, I mean, there are some pretty good proven ways to kind of maybe train a little bit differently, nowadays.
For sure.
Try to create some pressure, but there's nothing quite like the tournament.
No, I mean, I tell anybody that I train or whatever is if you can play for something that means something to you as much as possible, whether it's college kids, whether I'm like, hey, play for something, play for some money, play for beer, play for something that makes you a little nervous. You need as many reps as possible at being uncomfortable so that you can get good at being uncomfortable. You can't be, I think that the biggest thing that people fight, especially guys that think that they're chokers or whatever, is that they fight the nerves. They try to get rid of them instead of just accept being uncomfortable. Because if it means anything to you, your heart rate's going to be elevated. You're going to want it. All of these things are going to happen. You can't just not care, especially if you practice as much as the kids do nowadays. It's like, you can't practice all day, every day, go to a tournament and then just be like, I'm not going to care. It was impossible for me. Maybe some guys can do it, but I couldn't do that. I tried to. No,
I mean, I don't think that. I think some people maybe get a little bit more accustomed to the situation, or the more that you have. At least what I found with me, I'm not that dissimilar to you in that. In college, I definitely just had a lot of fear, but a lot of that was based on I really didn't know where the ball was going to go. So I would say today when I play, I'm just as nervous as I was back in college. Correct. But because I know where the ball is likely going to go, there's a level of trust that the nervousness isn't something that seems to bother where the ball goes.
Yeah, you can almost use it.
Maybe. I don't hit it as far as you are. I mean, I would maybe. But I think when I would hit bad shots in college, I would blame my nervousness.
Same.
And everyone would tell, well, you just have to not be nervous. And it's like, that was impossible. And I didn't really realize that my skills just weren't very good. Like, I just really wasn't very good. And I went down this road of like, I just wasn't good enough. And then, obviously, like if I'm not playing for anything, like whatever, I still hit terrible shots when I wasn't nervous, but maybe I didn't blame it on that. And then you develop a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I play bad in tournaments because I'm nervous.
That's right. We're the exact same when it comes to that. I guess the hardest thing for me is like when I had a good golf course, I played really well. So mine was, I was like, I know I can play when I'm nervous, but I can't play a championship style golf course when I'm nervous.
I see. And you do that enough times, and you basically show up knowing that you're writing the story before the books even come out.
That's right. Right. So these practice rounds meant everything to me when I was in college. I would go see a golf course and I was like, please just be in an okay place for me.
So, but you had quite a bit of success in college. I mean, I was reading your bio where you shot, some really, really low rounds, and you had like a very good scoring average for the program. Was that just because those golf courses fit you?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So like sophomore, junior year, I got to the 20th ranked amateur in the world. And that span right there between my sophomore year and junior year.
Did you really? Wagger, really? Wow.
Most of it was because I played good golf courses for me. It wasn't. So there's a little bit of a tweak. Like I started hitting cuts with the driver. Beforehand, when I was younger, I was always drawing it. When I kind of grew into it, I was still kind of hitting a relatively straight, maybe even a little draw. And then when I started, even though I was being haney, I was starting to cut the driver a little bit. So it was staying in play a little bit more. But if I still played a tough golf course, it was auto 80. There was no saving it. So I got lucky with the courses that we played during that span. And my golf swing got a little better with not having as big of a miss. But like I said, I putted it so good. And if I just drove it decent, I have so many wedges, especially in college, because I was hitting it really far in college.
Like, how far were you hitting in college?
I was probably playing closer to like 195 ball speed. I would have been way closer to like 132, 133 swing speed. And yeah, that was a different. And obviously, the more anxiety, the more nervous you get, the harder I would swing. So I don't know what I would have been tournament swings, but it would have been fast. And then obviously you get the really tight courses that with the wind in off the left, it was guaranteed that ball was going 100 yards offline every time.
Oh man. So
golf wasn't fun. It was
okay,
like I had so much anxiety.
If golf wasn't fun,
I wanted to conquer it.
Why then turn pro? Like what was that? Did you really want to play pro golf, or was it more like I didn't have options? Or
I never wanted to stop playing.
Okay.
Even though I was so far down the rabbit hole of being bad, I didn't want to quit. I guess I love the challenge of it, and I wanted to figure it out. Like I was like, if these other people can do it, even the guys that hit it really far, I was like, how can they do it and I can't do it? What do I need to do differently? And for the longest time, I just thought that they weren't as nervous as me. I had way more anxiety than them, which I probably did to an extent because I didn't know where it was going to go. So
yeah, exactly.
Obviously that anxiety was building a lot.
Yeah,
but
you had warrant. I say all the time, some people have warranted thoughts. Like you should be worried that you're going to hit it 100 yards, right? Because you physically can. But then there becomes a point and we'll get it with you, where it becomes unwarranted to where you're basically letting your scar tissue dictate what you think about from like 10 years ago when you haven't seen that shot. You may have not seen that shot in 5 years, but it still lives in there because you've done it enough. And it sounds like you did have a lot of warranted thought, and that was like you should be worried because it really was happening, which I would think would very, very much make golf, not very fun.
Yeah, especially when I played professionally. So my senior year of college, the driver yip showed up for the first time. I mean, I can tell you the first shot that had happened where I hit a ball so far right. It was at a state am at Whispering Pines. I had 4 provisionals on number 17.
Okay.
Found my first one. But that shot, I was like, I've never hit a shot that far right before. I don't even know how to do that. And from then on, it was always kind of lingering. And then senior year got really bad. My coach made me not take a driver to multiple tournaments in a row because he needed my score to count. And I didn't blame him, but at the same time, I was like, I'm trying to play professionally. Like, I got to get better at this. But it was really bad at that point in college. Is the first time that it happened. And then kind of got over it, luckily, just with I went and saw Joey Wartenberger, and he told me something. It was like a week before my first professional event, which was the state open. And for whatever reason, it didn't hold up when I got really close, but I was really close to the lead. I just came out and I hit it pretty good the first couple days, doing basically what he was saying to do at the time. And I was keeping it together. In the last 2 days, the driver started getting loose again. I ended up finishing second in my first professional event. So it kind of gave me enough money to keep going. But this was like my first event that I could at least just hit it somewhat and play. And the golf course was good for me. So like I played Cascades.
I was going to say, is this Cascades?
Cascades. Okay. And that's where I played because my brother lived out in Tyler. So I went out there and lived with him. And that's where I was trying to like practice and play.
So you had some comfortability with the course, the tee shots.
I could miss it both ways pretty far and get away with it. So it was a little bit of luck in that aspect of the golf course being good for me, and still hitting a lot of good quality shots when I needed to. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but it was a good start for me, to say the least.
And this is circa like 2012, 2013?
2010.
Oh, 2010. Okay, so you graduate from UTA. You played 4 years at UTA.
Yep.
Had a pretty good career. At least on paper, it was pretty good.
I had 2 really solid years in 2008 and 2009. Like I won the Cotton States. I'd won, I guess, 4 college tournaments in that span.
That's crazy.
And then senior year was not good. I didn't even make the team for the first event right after that. And then I got back into the lineup, but I couldn't take my driver because. And then,
oh wow,
from there
the
it was just a
longest
grind.
driver in college golf can't take his driver. Yeah.
That's right. I couldn't. I was hitting a driving iron, a Titleist. I don't even remember what it was, like 938H or something like that.
300 yards, probably.
It was coming out very low and it was cutting.
Yeah,
that was
bullets. So, how would you describe like your pro golf? I think you played for 4 or 5 years.
I played for 4.5 years. So I had a decent little run from in 2012 and 2013. After 2010, finishing second, I made a lot of cuts. I never hit the ball good. Like I would just scramble everywhere. I'd get everything out of my rounds to make the cut and do okay in some of the events, depending on the golf course. I didn't miss a lot of cuts, mainly because I chipped and putted good. But I never really gave myself a chance to win. And then 2013, I qualified for the Nelson. And so I guess in the end of 2013, or in the midst of 2013, my irons started getting really bad. Depending on the day, I couldn't hit a 7-iron with 100 yards of each other. It would go, I'd hit it super high right, and then that was my miss. My high right miss would ruin me mentally, no matter what club I did it with. If I did it with a pitching wedge or I did it with a 7-iron, it would ruin me for the whole day. No matter how much I practice, I could practice perfect for 2 weeks of not miss a shot. I hit one shot that's high right, and I'm ruined. I don't know what to do after that because I didn't know what was causing it or what was at the time. I didn't know anything about why I was doing it. So I was just terrified after that because the miss was so big, it's unplayable. It was, like I said, if I had a 7-iron, I could hit it 80 yards right, which is unplayable. So I qualified for the Nelson kind of with the iron yips. So I played the qualifier and got through it, and I can't sleep at all.
I'm sure.
Before I go to that.
And this is at Four Seasons, right? They're playing at Four Seasons.
Correct.
Which is a very uncomfortable
not a good place.
Not a good place for Bobby to go play.
No, and I had
Craig Ranch better.
Yeah, I had all these people coming out to watch, and I'm terrified that I'm going to shoot 90, legitimately. I don't know if I'm going to shoot 90 when I play this. So I'm like, I qualified to immediate, oh no, I've got to do this.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. Yeah.
I was terrified. I couldn't keep it together a lot of the leading up to it. When I got out there, very luckily I hit my driver pretty good. My irons were not good. I ended up shooting, I think, like 74 or 75 or something like that, which at the time I was okay with, even when I was done, because I was like, okay, I didn't shoot 90. That's where my mind was in that aspect. So it kind of gave me like, okay, you need to either get it together or figure out what you're going to do, because you can't, you get to the stage you want to play at, but you're so terrified to play that you're going to shoot 90 that what's the point of even qualifying? I couldn't even enjoy it at that point. So I was very upset. After the fact, I gave myself no chance. I bet I hit balls for 10 hours, and those for the practice round and the pro-am day. I was just hitting ball after ball after ball, just trying to
find
something. So insecure about it that I was just trying everything to just okay, how can I keep this in play? Just keep it in play. Don't hit 12 provisionals. That's where my mind was at the time, which was obviously it sucked because of I'd qualified for a Corn Ferry event, I guess, before the Byron Nelson. And it was kind of the same thing. I qualified at Lantana, but the tournament was at Midland Country Club. Also, not a good place for
Lantana
me.
is fine, yeah.
So I go out there, and I'm like, it's the same kind of deal. There's less people, so it wasn't as bad. But I finally get to a bigger stage of what you practice and play for the whole time you're playing junior golf and college golf. And I can't enjoy it at all because I'm terrified the whole time. And I'm not terrified to just play bad. I'm terrified to shoot 90, legitimately.
Which, if you think about that, though, I mean, you're never shooting a 90, right?
No.
Yeah. That's the power. You could have. But I think, I've had similar thoughts. And so going back to the unwarranted thoughts, I've had those similar thoughts. I mean, nowadays, like even I still play very, very irregularly, especially with how much I'm coaching. But like this year, I remember I signed up for the U.S. Open and I hadn't practiced any. So I mean, I'm thinking, man, this is going to go terrible. I ended up shooting a 79. It was not good. But I mean, the things that run through your head, like leading up to something, like Scheffler crying at the Masters, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I'm sure he's thinking like
Makes me feel better.
Yeah, right. I mean, he has more control than anybody, and I think it's just a good reminder. I'm sure a lot of people listening like have similar thoughts. Like, one, those thoughts happen. I would say don't let them manifest and like live for a long, long time. I'm sure you could probably agree with that.
For sure, but I don't know how to get them to stop for
Yeah.
somebody that's really struggling. If someone had a way, because I saw a shrink, I got tried to get hypnotized. Like I did everything
I did the hypnotist before. Yeah.
everything that I possibly could do to try to get over the hump of like to figure it out.
I think the thing that you do is you accept that those thoughts are real, but you also can sit there and say, I'm not going to go shoot a 90. Like you're not,
but
you're not.
I did not know I wasn't because I had.
Okay. So you had, okay. I was going to say, yes. I've had thoughts before that literally I never has happened. Like the things I was worried about, they're not happening. It's just where our brain, our negative self tends to go to like worst case scenarios. But like, I do go back to the Scheffler thing. Like as soon as he teed off, like I hit my driver. Okay. It's like, okay. Like
we're back.
I think it's much, much more in our head in general. I mean, you're talking years and years of like
for sure
scar tissue and struggle.
And
if someone could have maybe told you that when you were like 15 or 16, maybe that would have been helpful to hear like, okay, one, these thoughts are normal. Like a lot of people have thoughts like this. It's okay. And we're going to figure out a solution to this ball control, because at the end of the day, you're just hitting it terrible. And we need to find you don't have a mental problem. Like that's what I think would have been helpful for me to hear. Someone just to say like, you're not good enough. Of course you're hitting it off the planet, And I try to be that way with the kids. Like the last thing I want is for them to ever think that they have like a mental deficiency. I always want them to think my golf skills are not good enough.
That's right. And I would say that was my biggest downfall was I would practice. I would hit it good on the range of like I said, when I had that much forearm rotation and angle, it was just timing, just complete. All of it was just luck and timing. And when I was not nervous or anxious, I could time it up on the driving range. When I started to think it was mental, then it was game over.
Yeah, right.
Then it got really bad. And I had experienced it in college. Like I shot the highest and lowest score in multiple tournaments
That's
for
crazy.
the event.
That's crazy.
Whether it was like I think I shot 87-65 at Notre Dame. And it was just like, and I remember how I did it. Like I was hitting this high right with the driver. I bet I lost 8 golf balls. I don't even know how many. I lost so many golf balls. I would always take 15 golf balls because I was scared of losing more than like I had.
You should have only taken 3, and then you wouldn't have lost them. You would have
you
would have found a way.
Or if I did, I could just walk in.
Yeah, it's like I'm out. Don't count this round.
But I remember the second round, I just played it back in my stance, and I hit this like low cut with my drivers. It stayed in play, and I was putting so good. I felt like I was making it from everywhere. Even when I shot 87 or whatever I shot, I was like, I'm putting so good, and I'm shooting 90, legitimately 90.
Just got to find my ball.
Just find it. That's it.
So you're playing these pro events, Korn Ferry PGA Tour. It doesn't go that bad, but you basically realize, like, I can't do this. Like, this is not how I want to be playing golf.
So it got drastically worse after the Nelson and everything. And then like 2014, I guess it was the end of 2013, I went and played this all-pro tour event. I forget the name of the golf course, but it's north. It was at a casino, but it was it wasn't tight. It was just pretty wide fairways, then lost ball. And I couldn't find it. I just couldn't. My irons started getting bad. I was yipping, what I call yipping. It's really golf swing, but mentally what develops after the technique's bad.
Enough bad shots. Yeah.
And then you start believing, you have no idea where it's going. I did that, and then it started getting really hard for me to sign up for tournaments because I was so nervous about what I was going to shoot or what I was going to do. I went to Q school that year, didn't get through. I think I got through first stage, luckily, and then didn't get through second, didn't even come close. And then in 2014, the beginning of the year, the weather was bad, and it was the first regular, I think, APT event of the year. I ended up winning with the yips. Like I bet I hit, I don't know, for the week, I probably was averaging 7 or 8 greens around for those 4 days. But the weather was really bad. And
so scores were pretty high, probably.
I think I won
20 under.
I think I won with 6 under. It was at Golf Crest, which is a relatively decent golf course. It's decent for me because it's wide enough that you can kind of miss it a little bit and find it and get away with it. I didn't hit one green on my back nine and got up and down every time. And then I ended up winning in a playoff. I hit it in the middle of the trees, and then I just prayed and hit it through the trees, basically. Legitimately, is it to the right of 8 or on 18? If you hit it anywhere right, you're pretty much dead. And there was like a small little window, and it was a four-man playoff. So I was like, okay, I've got it.
Yeah.
The pitch out was harder than just to hope and hit it through these trees. And hitting it through the trees, make a putt, make birdie, and somehow win this event with the yips, basically. And then from there, it gets so bad the rest of the way. It didn't give me any confidence. If anything, it made me so much worse mentally. And I played all that year terrible. Like the yips had gotten really bad with my irons at that point, where if I had anything above a sand wedge, the chance of me hitting the green was basically 0%. And I'd still made a few cuts on the number, but it was like getting everything I possibly could out of what I was doing. And I started losing my hair, like those patches in my hair. I was
stress. Really?
Oh yeah. And I was like, okay, this isn't healthy. What are we doing? And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to play. I pulled out of an event, and I was like, if I can start practicing and playing better, then I'll sign up for something. And it just drastically got worse, even at home. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to be done. It kind of forced my hand in a sense of like, I'm not going to keep just going out there and making a cut is the best I can do is pointless, especially on a mini tours. You got no chance of doing anything with that. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll be done.
There's nowhere to go from there. Maybe make a little money, but there's no status to be gained really. Yeah.
You can't do it. You can't even make money if you're making the cut and you're finishing anywhere. You're just getting clipped every week. It's too expensive to travel and play, and I mean the tournaments cost $1,400 just to enter. Yeah. You basically had to finish top 10 to make any money. So I was like, okay, I wasn't done mentally of trying to play at the time. It was just like I'm going to practice and try to figure it out, and then it just never got better. So I just never signed up for anything else, and I started training. But I'd always my first hope, I guess, was I hope that I can play golf again, like legitimately go out and play with my friends. I was too embarrassed.
Or even just enjoy it, right? I mean, is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't even go
to the point you don't even enjoy it.
I wanted to just be able to play with my friends, like in general. Like I wouldn't even go and play with anybody. I'd played multiple times where I lost all my golf balls. Just because I was hitting driver and I'd lose 10, 12 golf balls just in a fun round. And I would just be done after 11 or 12 holes. I'd done that so many times that I was like, but I kept practicing a little bit, I'd say. I was like, I'd still study the golf swing and try to figure it out and then go and hit balls and then just see if it could get a little bit better as I was doing it. But the more I started studying the golf swing, whether it was a bunch of different methods, whether it was GG or Chuck Cook or what Butch does or Chris Como. Like I was just looking at their methods through their online stuff, not even them trying to tell you what they're doing, just them teaching their players what their players do, where the club is and things like that. And I started getting a better understanding. And I guess in like 2000 and let's see, it had been 2019-ish I'd got my amateur status back in, I guess, 2018. Didn't play anything. I didn't even sign up for an amateur event, I think, until 2021. But I had got it back just I don't randomly out of the blue, just like, maybe it'll get good enough one day that I'll play again. And I guess the biggest aha moment for me is when my driver started getting a little bit better, and I was trying to get rid of angle, of how much downcock I was creating.
So angle, for those they're not going to be able to see, but we're just talking about the angle of the club relative to your lead arm. So for right-handed
That's
golfer,
right.
your left arm. So the more angle there is, the more lag there is, the face is going to likely be more open and potentially be more, the path could potentially be more out to the right. Not necessarily,
right.
but that's kind of what Bobby's saying.
That's the gist, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was working on getting rid of it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, so I was messed around it's probably a year of trying different things to try to get rid of angle. And a lot of it was like, if I can just bow my left wrist, you can't get that much angle because your thumb's there. Well, I started having thumb pain because I was just creating the angle anyways. And then I was doing these pause drills where I'd go to the top and stop to try to slow down the transition, where it'd be good on the range, but I'd go play, and then I'd just pull the handle down super hard, and I'd still create the angle, and I'd still hit these terrible, what I call yip shots, but they're realistically, it's just technique. The technique was so bad that I would hit this high right shot, and then I was done. Like, as soon as, like I said, I hit one of them. If I hit one of them, I was finished for the day.
And to be clear, your intent basically is to hit a ball that starts left, either stays
Correct.
left or cuts, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So there's nothing more frustrating for a golfer when you're trying to start a ball left and you can't. And that, honestly, for a lot of good players, it really is hard for them to start the ball left. Like, a lot of good juniors are just naturally kind of draw the ball. They do have a lot of lag, like you know, they shallow the club a lot. And so learning to hit a functional start left cut is a challenge for a lot of people, like you experienced.
For sure. And then I basically was like, okay, I started getting rid of angle, not the way that most people would do it. Is I went back to I wanted to build a tournament golf swing, is when I was trying to rebuild my game in a sense. I was like, how am I going to do something? Because I know my tendencies when I play golf tournaments. My body goes fast. And when I tried to slow it down, my timing was always so bad. I just couldn't figure out how to slow it down because my brain was always racing. So it was just like, anytime that I would try to slow it down, I'd over slow down and I'd hit it straight left.
Yeah.
So it was just
you just accepted, I know I'm going to be fast. Let's stop fighting it.
So to reduce angle, you have to slow the transition down of the handle at the top of the backswing to basically reduce angle. Because the momentum of the club going back versus you going down, nobody's strong enough, if you have a lot of speed, to reduce that angle. It's going to lag because of the weight of the club. So I basically tried to allow my body to still go fast, but as my body's going fast, I'm trying to lift my arm up at the transition of, like, I'm almost still pulling it back to give it more time to then be wider.
Yeah.
Be wider and not create so much angle. And I basically started to reduce a lot of angle. And as soon as I started reducing a lot of angle, my shot pattern got drastically better. So I started hitting it. Yeah. I started hitting it much better. But my brain was still like, I have the yips. So
you're in the warranted thoughts, unwarranted thoughts world. Like, how do I get to the point I don't think this is going to happen?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Because I went through the yips for almost 7 years, basically 7 years, or what I call the yips, whatever. So that brain wiring and that embarrassment of doing it all the time, and nobody really cares, but it's more embarrassment with yourself.
Yeah.
And it just got so bad in that span that I was like, now that I was hitting it a little better, it wasn't great at first by any means, but it was drastically better than it was. So I was like, okay, I can at least go play with my friends. And I was like, okay, now I want to play for something that means something. So I started playing for a little bit of money, not a lot of money, just something that made me care a little bit more, to see if I can get my heart rate up and see what happens. So it was like just practicing being nervous in a sense and seeing how it would hold up. And it would hold up okay. It wasn't like I was striping it by any means, but it was like I was keeping it in play. And I was like, okay, that's better. That has a chance. And then I guess 2019 rolls through in 2020, and I'm playing more now. Like I'm enjoying playing more. So I'm playing more with my friends, and it's just getting better constantly. I'm getting more aware of where the club is because I don't have so much angle. I also try to basically keep the club more outside my hands. I got rid of a lot of forearm rotation, especially at the top of the backswing where it's so laid off, more Haney-ish you see out and around, big bowed wrists. So I started being way more, it's not even really Chuck Cook, but it's kind of more hands in, club out on the way back. And that pitched the club a little bit farther out in front of me. So now I got the club farther out in front of me with less angle. So my misses, especially my right miss, is basically come in to where if I do miss it right, it's not a big right like ever. Mentally, this whole time, even now mentally, I'm not good. Like, especially before I go play, I always feel like it's going to come back. I'm always scared that the yips or whatever you want to call them is going to come back. So before I go play in anything, I have a lot of anxiety and I'm nervous about it because I just don't want to go through that whole span again, which sucks. And I had read every mental book there was, but I was way too far gone. I wish I would have read those mental books before I had my problems. Because if they're always talking about visualizing and everything like that, but anytime that I would visualize, it would always be negative. Always. The brain wiring was too deep for those situations, whether I'm in the middle of the fairway and I have 185 yards and I'm just trying to hit it in the middle of the green. If I'm back there trying to visualize anything, it's negative every time. So what helped me the most, which I would never advise someone to do what I do, but I just had to stop visualizing completely. Just try to be way more in the moment and never think anything visualizing at all. And it helped me a little bit of be able to calm down a little bit and just kind of stay in the flow of things. And my shots were better. The only part that I wanted to get a lot better was before I played. Like the anxiety before I played in anything. It didn't have to be a big event. Just anything. I just didn't want to shoot 90, like legitimately. So I didn't want to have those big misses again and be worried about it. And it's gotten, obviously, the better you play, it gets better just naturally. So it's definitely gotten better. But that's like the thing that I really want to, I wouldn't say go away, because part of me thinks that it makes me a little bit better because it makes me like think about it more or try harder or be more focused. So maybe it's beneficial to some extent now. Because it keeps me sharper mentally of being like, okay, you better focus, don't get complacent. But at the same time, that's all I really want to go away for my golf is just like the pre-round anxiety before I go play for what is no money now, but it's more of my personal, I don't want to embarrass myself, thoughts.
I wonder as you continue to play and prove to yourself that those thoughts are unwarranted, that you're not doing that anymore, if it is slowly subsiding to where even when that thought pops up, there still is a moment where you're like, yeah, I still think that, but I kind of know like I'm going to go out there and on the first
100%.
I'm not going to hit up, because you've seen it enough times to where maybe it's at like 70%, or it was at 100%. Maybe it's at 70%.
It's less now. It's definitely less than that now. Yeah. So we've made a lot of improvements, I would say, in the last year of even the anxiety kind of just like slowly drifting away from my pre-round stuff or whatever. Just from obviously playing good fixes everything. When you prove to yourself that you can do it under pressure or whatever it is, it definitely starts to change mentally how you think about things or what's possible or all of that things. So playing good fixes everything. I wish I had something for guys that aren't playing good and to just think better. That's very hard to do. I don't know how to not think bad when you're playing poorly. Because to build confidence, you have to do it. It's not something that you can just go. The amount of people that said you just have to be confident. It's like wasn't possible for me.
Yeah.
How can you be confident?
Don't think of an elephant.
Yeah. Exactly.
It goes back to what we talked about. Like, be the person that, like you did. You eventually got to the point where you said, "I know that it is a technique-based problem. Yes, it's turned into a mental problem where I think it's going to happen, but I know this is from some reason in my golf swing that this is happening."
Correct.
Right? Like, I made a video today of why Scheffler shanked his bunker shot. Like, you can say that's mental. He was on an upslope. He didn't choke up at all, and he early extended 3 inches in the bunker. Okay, if
That's
you do
right.
those 3 things, you're likely going to heal it. Now, he may go, well, sometimes I think about that, but you could also say, well, the technique that he's doing is likely going to heal the ball. And oh, by the way, he heals it as his miss because of those things. So it's
He
like,
healed the earlier one too.
yeah,
That
so,
they showed.
and everyone's like roasting me for making the video. Like, he
Yeah,
still won and he's still amazing, but it's not like that's a mental problem. Now, if you do it enough, it can kind of turn into that, but you could
That's
still go,
correct.
I could have him towing it on every bunker shot within 1 minute because he probably doesn't know that that's why that happens. Or maybe he does. Maybe Randy's told him. I don't know. But
I'm
that's
sure
kind
they've
of what
talked
I'm
about it for
saying.
sure.
Like that's what I'm saying is like we let these things manifest themselves into mental problems when there's clearly a logical form solution. I would just argue guys like you and a lot of people listening, they just don't know that. And that's why you have to get with a good coach or like you did, self-discovery. Maybe you had some coaching too, but you listened to things that made logical sense and then you just decided this is what has to happen. And now
Yep.
over time it's getting better. You're probably a pretty rare case in the mental thing of like 7 years, but that's what this game can
Terrible
do to
game.
you.
Absolutely terrible
but
game.
it's also great at the same
best.
time because
It's the
it's
best.
amazing.
Yeah.
So now you're coming out of the woods. I mean, so I think when I started recognizing that you were playing really well is when you qualified for the Nelson, I think last year.
And I qualified for so always been a good putter, but then I got the putter yips. So,
Oh, jeez.
so I qualified for the Nelson with the putter yips. But when I say the putter yips, I didn't have the yips from 5 feet and in. I would flinch at it, not a lot. I'd probably do it 2 or 3 times around, but it would always be from like 6 to 15 feet. I would flinch at it. And I was like, what? Out of nowhere. And it was like, I would say it probably happened 3 weeks before I qualified for the Nelson. And the golf course that we played for me to qualify could not have been better for me if I drive it good. Because I can basically hit it on the green on like 5 par 4s.
Yeah, pretty short.
So I'm like, I get it going early. I've made a long putt, but I'm hitting it it feels like I'm hitting it to 6 feet on every hole, like legitimately. I would say I made a good 4-footer on 18 for birdie to get me in, but I missed a 4-footer for eagle on 17. I missed a 5-footer for birdie on 16, and I missed a 6-footer for eagle on 15. So I missed these, and I yipped 2 of those badly. And I was like,
and you still shot what, 62 or 61?
I shot 8. I don't know what 8 was.
Oh,
I think
it was 64. Yeah.
I don't know what the par was, but so now I get in the event, but it's a different kind of nerves when you have putting yips versus swing yips. I had never messed with any other grip, so I was just like, maybe it's nothing.
Time to go claw, baby.
So I played the Nelson.
Broomstick claw.
I played the Nelson. I had in my head, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try the claw. The claw doesn't work. I'm going
left-handed.
Chesty. I would go chesty first, and then I was going to go left-handed.
Yeah,
that's the
playbook that I would have done. Yeah.
In my mind, that was my playbook that I was going to do. But I played the Nelson. I actually hit it pretty well.
Your driving stats were good. I remember looking at them.
I actually hit my irons pretty good. I hit the ball tee to green good enough to actually play pretty good. I putted not good, which is like the first time ever in my career where it was the exact opposite of what I was doing, which was super frustrating. But I always wanted to just hit it good. I always knew if I can just hit it good, I could be consistent. So the putting, it didn't even really bother me that much that I kind of had the yips. And I was always planning on like, okay, I'm going to change before this gets bad. It never got bad. It never was like I couldn't make a 3-footer, or it was never like a Lucas Glover or Zalatoris, like where you noticeably see it. People couldn't even really tell that I had it because it was from farther distance. Yeah. Obviously, you can feel it, which is scary. But I was like, I switched immediately before I became a bad putter.
You switched to claw?
Immediately. As soon as I got done with the Nelson, I switched to the claw.
There you go. See, I would have done claw immediately. There you go.
Before I let it get bad. So I'd only yipped it for like 3 weeks, and I was like, screw this. I'm not going to try to like conquer it. I'm just going to try a different thing. Went to the claw. I actually played in a really big money game like the next day with the claw, and I had 2 putts coming down the stretch where I needed to make from like 6 feet, and I didn't yip it, and I poured it in. And I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't have to worry about anything.
Again, it's the you make the change technically, and then after you see some results, it's like, okay, yeah, that's what you need.
I was immediately comforted when I did it. I was not worried at all. After I hit those 2 putts, I never thought about it again, and haven't. I can talk about it openly; it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I'm not as good with the claw. Not as good yet. I mean, I've only been doing it for a year and a half or something like that.
Yeah, speed control is definitely different.
It's just I'm not, and I don't practice, so it's kind of hard to say. Like if I like put a lot of time in, maybe it'd be worse. I don't know, but one of these days I'll find out of how much time I can spend in. It's just hard with kids and job and everything else. But
so USAM, I was at the USAM.
Oh, nice.
I was there. We got to do practice rounds with Gordon Sargent, Jackson Coyven, and Jackson Van Parts. It was so fun.
They're pretty good, huh?
They're very good. Yeah. So you rated to the round of 8.
Mm-hmm.
Were you surprised at how that went? Were you expecting heading in that it was going to go that way? Like, walk me through the week.
So first off, you go play the practice round. I went to Chaska, and I was like, okay, this golf course is gettable other than the stretch of 11 through 16. You get through 11 through 16 at around even par.
Yeah.
You can do it. Obviously, you can't miss on a lot of those holes, or you can make double really quickly. But the other ones, you feel like you can kind of get it around. And I was hitting it good enough that I felt comfortable enough.
You could probably drive 4 of the greens, probably.
2 for sure. Number 3 and number 16. I could drive. The rest of them, and I wouldn't even have tried if I could have. I don't think. Okay. But those are the only 2 that I definitely could have got to. Yeah. And then you go play Hazeltine. You're like, it's all you want. It's a very hard golf course. Yeah. You basically just have to grind it out regardless. There's a lot of demanding shots. You just have to sack up and hit a good shot. There's no bailout or anything like that. I was driving it good enough coming into it. I've been driving it pretty good, honestly, for like the last 3 years. Of like, it's been, for as far as I hit it, my misses are not big. And if I'm missing the fairway, it's usually on the proper side for the most part, of the side that I want to miss on relative where the flag is on the hole. So I felt comfortable enough around the place to do good if I got to match play. It's the hardest part to me of these things is making it to match play.
For sure.
Because you just can't have a bad hole, really, because it just knocks you out. And you can't like make up shots out there. The courses are too hard to make birdies. So you're just trying to always keep it in front of you. I played fairly aggressively. I was just like, okay, let's try to basically push it down as far as we can on the proper side so that we can middle green it as much as possible. And unfortunately, I finished good at Chaska because I drove 16. I hit it to like 4 feet off the tee.
Are you serious? Wow.
Made eagle on 16, and then I made a good birdie on 18 to shoot 3 under. So I was like, okay, I'm in a good spot. I played a lot of good golf on that course to do that because I did not putt well. I would say I putted well. I just didn't read the greens good. So I was hitting a lot of lips. I could have had a really good round out there. So it was like, I was happy with the way I finished, but I was like, I had left some shots out there. And then I started on number 10, and I hit driver because the pin was on the left. And it clipped the top of the tree. And it clipped the top of the tree. I thought I hit it perfect. I honestly thought I was going to be like a chance to be in the middle of the fairway. And it clipped the top of the tree, and it dropped like down and to the left. And I had this punch shot. You can't punch it through the rough because it's going to stick. And then I under punched it and make double to start basically my second round. I'm like, God, here we go. I was like, all these shots that I basically wanted for cushion, I've now thrown away. Then I made a clutch 15-footer on the next hole for birdie, which I got up and down from a 60-yard bunker shot, which basically settled me. And I was like, okay, 1 over through 2. Now we're chilling. And I just played the rest of the way, played like pretty solid the whole day. Hit a lot of good iron shots because the par 3s are hard out there, and didn't really ever have like really stressful moments out there. I was never looking at double ever. If I made a bogey, it was because I missed a relatively easy par putt. It was not a very stressful round, other than like I was finishing on 8, which that hole for a par 3 is very difficult. Just with the wind was in off the left. And if you miss it anywhere left of the green, it's auto bogey. And I didn't at the time know what it was going to take. So I was very happy. I hit a great shot into that hole, and I was like, okay, that's going to be good enough for me because I can just hit left to right here, and I can make par on 18 and not really think about it. So after I knew I was in match play, I have a mindset, especially with these kids, because I know they're all going to hit it just as far as I am. But I also know if I play good, they're not going to have an advantage on me because they're not hitting it farther than me. So I'm like, okay, if I can drive it good, I'm going to have a great chance, regardless of who I play or whatever. And I drove it pretty good, pretty much the whole match play. The last, I guess when I played Jose, the final, and I hit a couple balls left in the back 9, which to me weren't the worst golf swings. It was more just like I'm trying to keep it up the left, and I tug it slightly, and I'm in the rough, but it's in the wrong side of the rough. And then I had a terrible 3 putt on number 14 where I just thought it was way faster. And I felt I enjoyed playing, but I was really upset that I felt like I gave him the match in a sense. I didn't feel like he earned it. Of course he earned it because I made the mistakes and he didn't. But I felt like if I would have just played normal of what I felt was normal, the way that I was playing, that he would have had to make birdies to beat me. And I ended up making bogeys to what I felt like gave him the match, which he's a phenomenal player, and there's absolutely nothing but credit to him because obviously he's won the whole thing. But
he's crazy. It's crazy.
He's a great player, great golf swing.
It's a far.
He's very, very.
Yeah,
I mean, he's probably got to be in the 185 ball speed range at least.
It looks like it.
So,
I mean, it looks fast.
He gives it a lash for sure.
Yeah.
And everybody, for the most part, hit it really far, except for one of the guys hit a little bit shorter. Kid from Tawan, TK. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, the guy going to Stanford or whatever.
Very good player.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very skilled.
He's, in my opinion, who I thought was the most polished of everybody I played against. He has a little bit more limitations because his body hasn't quite matured yet, so he's not hitting as far as those other kids. But I mean, he won an Asian Tour event at 15.
I saw that. So, yeah,
so
crazy.
He's just like even mentally, his mindset, his demeanor. I think that he's going to be a kid that's going to figure it out really quickly and be someone that's going to be very, very good later on. But like I was saying, the other kids. Everybody's really good. You were out there. Everybody's really good. But I didn't feel like I was in a disadvantage in any way because I could hit it as far as they did. And the golf course is a big golf course.
So how do you explain that you're not practicing real? I mean, you're really not. You're not practicing like a pro golfer. I mean, you have a full-time job, you have kids, if you are playing, you're probably playing more than practicing, I would guess.
I usually hit balls once a week, and then I try to play once a week. Most of the time,
you're not practicing. That's not very much.
No.
So how do you like explain how well your skills hold up against the best amateur players in the world?
I would really say that when I played professionally and when I was going through all this stuff, I practiced so much then. Like it's
probably
almost like
too much.
Way too much. But I was insecure. I didn't know what else to do. But I think all of that time playing and practicing back then has like carried over to now that I have my golf swing in a position, I understand my body movement and stuff like that. I kind of have these little checkpoints that I go through for myself. I wouldn't necessarily tell someone else to do the same checkpoints that I do because I think everybody swings it a little bit different. But if I'm hitting it a little left, I know for me that my left shoulder is kind of going down a little bit too much, down and around on the downswing. So the club's a little bit pitched out too far in front of me, which shuts the face just slightly. So I'm hitting these little pools. And if the club gets, if I start missing it just a little bit kind of leaky to the right, I know that I'm a little bit under. And those are my checkpoints. And then I go from that. And the rest of it, my arms and hands are just along for the ride for the most part. I've kind of got into a position with my backswing where the club's at the top, where I feel like the weight of the club is doing most of the work for me. So I kind of understand these feels. So, and when I hit balls, I'm legitimately hitting like 45 balls. I don't hit a lot of balls anymore. I never hit driver on the range. I have like these checkpoints for me that work or that have worked. I don't know if they're going to hold up, but they've done well for me for the last 3 years. So I'm trying not to mess with it a whole bunch. I'm not spending any extra time on that. I do need to spend a lot more time on my wedge game because
I was going to say, what about the short game putting, man?
It's from 100 to 20 yards. I'm not good anymore. I used to be very good. Now I hit him solid, but my distance control is not good. Not good at all.
When we were watching the playoff, that was the most televised part. You kept hitting it down the middle, but then I think on one wedge shot, you left it pretty far short. You hit a couple of them pin high. They probably were a little warranted, right? Especially when the one guy hit it like in the rough. But it seemed like for the most part, you hit some. At least your distance control was good apart from that one.
Those were a little bit longer, and even those shots, like I know what shot I'm supposed to play, but like some of those holes should have been more of a dead-handed shot that I take some spin on. But when you don't practice,
it did rip on you. Yeah,
that is not the most comfortable shot to hit when you're don't
that
do
much
it.
on the line too. Yeah,
correct. So I'm like. The one that ripped really far is I tried to pitch that ball another basically 5 yards farther. So I mishit it slightly. And then there's these two ridges. So it didn't have that much spin on it. It catches these two ridges and it looks. But the shot is really to take one more club and hit it soft. But I didn't have that shot or wasn't comfortable hitting that shot.
It's a feely shot. That's a tough shot. Because what if you hit it too hard? It's like, oh my gosh.
That's a practicing shot. And I wasn't going to hit. I didn't hit a lot of those. Taking a lot of spin off of because I know the shot to play. I've played golf my whole life. I know exactly what to do, but to be comfortable enough to do it when everything's on the line is a whole different animal. So I was doing more of conservative, let him make the mistakes. I felt like if I could get it in a decent position, I'm going to make pars at worst, especially where I'm driving.
You were driving it so good. Every shot was
like if he would have hit some shots that were a little closer, I would have definitely hit different shots into the green of whether it's like especially the one at 18, I would have hit a much more dead hand, try to take a lot of spin and try to get it really close. Realistically, I'm just trying to hit it to about 15 feet right of the hole with just hitting a full wedge. And wherever it goes at that point.
And maybe you pull it.
Exactly. If I pull it, goes a little bit
farther. That putt you made was awesome. I mean, that was crazy.
It was very nice to see it go in.
Yeah.
It's not one that you expect to make. It's one that you're just trying to tap in. But
it was
the
speed perfect right. Speed, perfect read. It looked.
My lag putting was very good, especially in the playoff, because I had a lot of 40-footers, to be honest.
Yeah, that one that you ripped back. I mean, you almost made that one.
So it was obviously super fun to do and be a part of.
So what's next for golf? I mean, do you enjoy amateur golf much more than pro golf, like just in general? Or is it like you would love to play pro golf again?
I love the competition is what I love more than anything. And I would love to play good and make money. Don't get me wrong. I like playing the amateur schedule just because I'll play 3 events. I'll play the state am. If I qualify, I'll play for the USAM, and then I'll go to the mid-am. And those are usually the 3 tournaments that I play. And there's some pro scratches in here. Anything that's like local and on a weekend, I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll play. But if it's during the week, I'm like, I can't. Like, I've got to work. Yeah. I've got to make money. I've got to do these things. So to answer your question, I'd love to play pro golf. I wouldn't love to travel. Like it would be very, very hard for me to leave my kids and my wife here, especially like if I went to Q school, I would have to have pretty good status before I would like, okay, let's do it again. Because if
you're not going to Q school.
What's funny is there was a lot of guys offering to give me some money to go to Q school.
I would imagine so.
So I was like, screw it, I'll do it. So I was going to go to Q school, but by the time I talked to my wife and everything, and I was going to sign up, I'd missed the deadline. It was 6:30.
Oh no!
Just completely random, completely random of like the day and everything. I mean, playing professional golf, you know exactly when the sign up is. But being out of it for 10 years now, I had no idea when the cutoff or whatever was. So it probably worked out for the best, to be honest with you, because even Q school.
Now you can
Q
play
school,
the pro scratch at Old American against me.
I will.
We're going to get you this year. We got a little side bet. We'll have to text about that.
Absolutely.
That's my old Tom McGrath. I at least have like maybe one shot advantage just on strategy. Maybe.
Oh, 100%.
I don't think that's going to hold up.
The stomping grounds, baby. That golf course is not ezy either.
Yeah, but you can hit your driver a lot of places out there. So
you sure
like
can.
Your chances.
You sure can.
So
mid-am's next to answer your question.
Okay, so you're leaving for that this week, right?
Next week. So it's the 21st. 21st is a mid-am. So, and I told all these guys, like, oh, you got to be ready. You got to be a big favorite for this thing. I was like, I've played one time since I've been back for the USAM. And I tell them the same thing. It's like, if I can get through the stroke play and make it to match play, I'm a good match play player. It's especially if I'm driving it good. Yeah. So I would like play, yeah. I would like to give myself the chance to give it a run. But to say I'm a favorite, I don't know. If I'm playing good, yeah, maybe.
Man, I would think the mid-am, I mean, obviously the USAM, you almost did it, but I would think in the mid-am, you would think the competition isn't quite the same as the USAM.
It's not.
So
it's not.
I would think if you continue to hit it far and your skills stay good, I would bet over the next 5 to 10 years, there's definitely going to be a chance. Just because, I mean, not everyone at the mid-am level hits it, 300.
No, I'm definitely going to be definitely a lot longer player at the mid-am. The hardest thing is the way the USGA sets up these events, especially the mid-am, is they take your driver out of your hands a lot of the time. You're playing to spots and you play more position. USGA events, if you're a good iron player, you have a huge advantage. That's, in my opinion, the biggest thing with USGA golf is you have to hit sections on greens and you have to really control your ball and play the par threes really good.
The par threes are so hard. The par threes at Hazeltine were so hard.
Number 14 or 13, it was playing 258 into the wind, and or I think it was 249 when the pin was in the front, and you had 4 yards on either side.
I mean, even at the U.S. Junior, we went to the U.S. Junior with Luke, and number 9 was like 245, and like the pins on a shelf that you would hit a wedge there.
Yeah, and you're like, what are we doing here?
It's like a par 4. Yeah.
Middle green it. That's all I try to do is just middle green it and 2-putt.
Well, man, you've been super generous with your time. I do want to talk a little bit about your full-time job just for a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you get into the fitness, and kind of what is your demographic of client like these days, and how can the people that are listening kind of benefit from what you do?
So I got into fitness when I was in high school. I was like I said, I was really, really small, and I was tired of being small. So like junior year of high school, I started doing 2-a-days. I basically did 2-a-days every day, pretty much for the full year. Obviously, like Christmas and stuff like that. So it's not technically every day, but most days I worked out twice a day. I did it very stupid and would basically do the same workout every day.
Okay, but so I didn't do groups and just go for it.
Very stupid. But I didn't know any better. But once you started to do more, and I started asking these people that were roided up in the gyms, I didn't know what steroids were, but they were just huge. And I would ask them how to build this muscle, how to build it. So I was learning through basically experience of just talking to these people. And then I started really studying the diet side of it and the bodybuilding side of it. And the bodybuilding more so for, if you study the extreme, it gets very easy for everyday people to tell them what to do to change their body, in a sense. This had nothing to do with speed or anything like that. It was just basically fitness at a very basic, but not basic level, because I was really diving into the woods of it. And then I went to college for health and nutrition, which all I did or cared about in college was golf. So take that with a grain of salt with how much I learned while I was in school. Most of what I learned was through doing stuff. And I started training our college team. I spent a lot of time with those guys of doing different things with that aspect. And then when I started hitting it a lot farther, which I kind of fell into, to be honest, at first, because of I was trying to get everything out of it when I was a kid. And when you grow into that, that is somewhat of speed stuff. So if kids are doing anything, teach them or tell them to practice swinging as hard as they physically can swing. That will make them as fast as they can get. Everybody's baseline's different, but that is the easiest way for a kid to hit it really, really far. And then when I really got, I guess, stopped playing professionally, I knew I was going to do like speed stuff in general. And there wasn't much market for it at the time. I mean, in 2014, nobody's teaching speed stuff. And basically how I started doing it, I was like, everybody's teaching this like flexibility and core movements, which are great for everyday life, but it would never make you hit it farther. And that's still, most people still think is like, I'm not flexible enough. And my core strength, I'm not doing enough ab work, which yes, will help your everyday life, but it's not going to help you hit it farther. If you look how sprinters train, you got to train basic, very small individual movements to make your body faster, in a sense. Your central nervous system and recruiting more fast twitch fibers and basically making your brain really optimal at doing those things. And there's certain specific things that you should and shouldn't do, because when you train for speed, it is much more dangerous because it's aggressive. So you have to make sure you do movements correctly so you don't hurt yourself. But you have to train your body to move faster. And I'm not long drive guy, kind of like training aspect. I could do stuff like that, not necessarily me doing long drive, but like teach it. I tried to never change anybody's technique to hit it farther. I think that if you're a good player and you start changing technique to hit it farther, you're going to lose face. And then once you start hitting it all over the lot, then it starts getting mental. And then most of the time people go back to what they were doing before, to then try to keep it in play. Now they're not hitting it farther, and they just went through the worst experience of their life of hitting it all over the place, chasing speed. And then they end up going back and not do it. So what I try to do is just speed up whatever you have. Whatever you have, if we can get 4 to 8 miles an hour out of exactly how you swing it, that's usually my goal with almost everybody. Because 4 miles an hour is about 2 clubs a hole. You get
that's
around
a ton. That's a ton.
You get around 12 yards with the driver, and then you're going to get around 6 or 7 yards with the 7-iron. So 4 miles an hour is what people think is not a lot is a lot.
That's a ton.
Yeah. If you're hitting a 9-iron instead of a 7-iron, it'll change your scoring average. So that's the route that I go now, especially with the guys that I train. And most of what I train, I train high school kids, college kids, but I get a lot more probably 30 to 70-year-olds that just want to hit it farther in general, whether they're in the golf business. I trained a few guys that were on tour and whatnot, but I basically tell them that I'm not traveling. I'm just not. If I'm traveling, I'm going to try to play. I'm not going to go there and train. So anybody that sees me, so you can come back anytime you want, and I'll be happy to help you. But I'm not going to be on the road with you. So most of the guys end up finding somebody else that's going to be on the road with them. Yeah. And I have. There's no. If they ever need my help, they can call me, DM me, whatever they want to do, and I'll be happy to help anybody that wants help. But like I said, I'm not. The traveling is just not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I enjoyed our conversation. You're a super cool guy. I'm really pumped that you're past all the things you're past.
Same.
I'm super excited to see both. I follow you on Instagram and all your fitness stuff, and then everything with your golf. So what would be the best way for people to follow you?
Just follow me on Instagram. It's the easiest, probably. What's
your handle?
Bobby Massa 3. So it's just my name with a 3. And feel free to DM me, whatever. I usually respond to everybody that DMs or anything if they have any questions or if they want to come in or do whatever. Just whenever.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for the time.
We need to get together. I'd love to talk golf swing and everything else.
My philosophy just is help people get the ball in the hole faster. That's it. So
that's right.
I'm not going to do too much.
That's the best philosophy you could possibly have.
That is all I got, man. So, okay, man. Well, that was great. We'll definitely hang out, and then I'll see you at the Pro Scratch
sounds good.
We'll probably be in the final group together.
I hope so.
All right, man. All right. See ya.
Take it easy, man. Bye.
Andrew Lewis, welcome back to the Angle of Attack. What's going on, man?
Hey, Jim. Yeah, it's good to be here, as always.
So this is super exciting. We are dipping into the 72 to 70. This is going from elite to really elite set of golfers. So just for some context here, recently I looked at scoring average for, say, the top 100, 150 juniors in the country according to Junior Golf Scoreboard. And there were only about 35 that had a scoring average of 72 and below. And so even where we left off last time in terms of the last category, we're really kind of getting into this elite, category. Like we talked about last time in the mailbag episode about golfers being recruited at a high level. So these are generally going to be your high level D1 recruits. But getting from 72 to 70, that is really kind of climbing the mountain. And not even sub 70, there were only, I think, 13 golfers that I saw that had scoring averages in the 70s and below. So this is getting finer and finer and more difficult to differentiate yourself from the peers. And some make it, some level off before that. And I just think like it's very, very interesting to see, you see some golfers are on this tremendous trajectory. They get to that 72 or in 71 and a half, but they can't quite get over the hurdle to that 70 scoring average or in the 70s. And I'm just wondering like what these differentiating factors are. And I just wanted to cover, start covering some of these topics. So like we always talk about like control what you can control. And this seems like it's such a steep climb that these gains are very slow and incremental and sometimes imperceptible. How do you maintain that discipline in order to like get there? Like I just don't know what the differentiating factors are between those that get there and those that don't. So I just wanted to start there. Maybe it's just an open-ended question about like what you see in the golfers in these two categories.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is, we go back to this a lot, is conviction. And, when you are at that 72 level, I mean, you're clearly a very, very good player. But as you start playing against these better players, it's very, very easy to see some kids that are better than you and for you to start kind of questioning what you do. And that's where I see a lot of the issues come in, where you basically start saying, and Bill and I talked about this in the podcast a little bit of like, do you show up to college and you're like, oh, wow, now these people, I see what they do. I can't do that. And you kind of start to lose your identity. The thing that I've seen with the best professionals and juniors that I've worked with is that they have a level of conviction and they have a level of identity to where they know exactly what they want to do and how they do it, how they play their best golf. And they don't really stray from their blueprints because they know the things that they do are good enough, and they know how to enhance the skills. And they also know like where their superpowers are, and then the things that they might need to just like, I'm good enough at this thing. At the USAM, we had the good fortune to play with 3 of the top 10 players in the world, amateurs in the world. And it's not like you go there and it's just a stripe show the whole time. Obviously they hit it far. Obviously they're very, very skilled. But the thing that I walked away from is they all hit bad shots. None of them reflected on them for the most part. Like it was so easy for them to let go of it and just move on to the next shot, versus I think I see a lot of people who hit bad shots and they just start questioning everything. Like they'll hit one bad shot and it like, I'm going to have to go grind in the range because I know it's not good enough. We played with one guy who really didn't, I'm not going to say his name, but he didn't really hit it very well. And I was talking to his coach, and his coach is like, it'll be fine. He's going to find a way. And sure enough, I think he ended up finishing like top 15 in stroke play. And that to me is conviction. Like he knows like, I can rely on my short game. Even if I'm hitting a little bit crooked, it's going to be fine. I have enough ball control. And then he went and shot like 3 or 4 under for 2 days on 2 very hard golf courses. So I think it comes down to, I'm not saying it's everything, but I think the starting point of this conversation is you have to develop conviction, which is very, very, that definitely is a separator.
Oh, that's amazing. So I think also when you talk conviction, I think of like dedication. So if you have this 72 and I want to get to 70, if you can identify the aspects you want to work at, you need to work on to get there, it takes a high level of commitment to start whittling away at that. So I think of like the term like trust the process. Like this might be a 6 to 9 month or 12-month journey to eventually get from 72 to 70, and there's no guarantee that you will ever get there, right? But
Yeah.
you need to have the conviction, the dedication to actually start that. So when you're talking to players, maybe we're getting towards the fall and sort of these end of year conversations. Is this like the right time to be discussing like this is kind of where I want to be, a year from now? This is the goal I want to get to, and then if those are lofty goals, like you guys can have a real conversation about like, oh, okay, well, these things that, like you said, the superpowers, like let's maintain them. Let's elevate the floor on those things so they're always there and you can always rely on them. And here's our things that, maybe need to get rounded out a little bit more, and we can spend more time in the off season focusing on that.
Yeah, I think, to start that conversation, because if you really think about, let's say you want to drop a shot and a half or 2 shots, you're likely doing that in 4 or 5 categories. So let's say it's 5 categories. Let's say it's, a putting category, a ball striking category, something in short game, and then maybe some mental skills, so 4 or 5 things. So that means you're trying to find 0.4 of a certain skill, which the problem with that is that you're not going to see that like day in, day out. You're going to see that through statistics in a period of time, like 10 or 20 rounds. In this case, we're talking about like a year of rounds, which could be, if you play 20 events, we're talking maybe 40 rounds. So number one is at this level, you have got to do statistics. It's not like when you're shooting 80 and you hit, 2 or 3 balls out of bounds. At this level, you're not going to know how to do it. And I'm not going to know how to do it because I'm not watching you play, and I'm just going to go off of what you say. So if you are a 72 player wanting to get 70, start doing statistics. And then from there, there becomes a point where it's not always about technique. It's not always about I have to change something. Sometimes it's just attention. Like you might be minus 1.5 strokes gained putting, and all of that is for the most part from 10 to 20 feet, but yet you don't do any putting drills specifically from 10 to 20 feet. There may be nothing wrong with your stroke. It could literally just be attention. So I only say that is once you identify where the shot and a half or 2 shots are, you have to have a plan that attacks it, not from I need to go change my putting stroke, or I don't know how to hit these shots. It's likely not that. I would bet in most cases it's just attention. Like bunker shots. Like, am I doing specific drills? Like I saw a thing today about Ludwig in the bunker, like his crazy drill he does. Like, I'm sure he does that because he's trying to probably find like a 1/10 of a shot, because that's worth, I don't know, $2 million a year if you can find a 1/10 of a shot. Like, think about the margins though of like a 1/10 of a shot at that level. It's huge. So, finding a shot and a half or 2 shots from 72 to 70 should be easy, but it's very difficult if you don't have data.
Well, that's a huge plug to the work that we're doing at Driven Golf Analytics. That makes me feel very, very good. So I appreciate you. We're going down the right track, and it has worked. I think what we've seen over the course of the year through my son's development and some of the other juniors we work with is this elevation of the floor, which is actually probably beyond what we even anticipated. But I think we had these conversations, and ultimately what we found is, in this getting from the 72 to 70, the ceiling only maybe got a half a stroke better, I think, relative to last year. But the floor improved by probably 2.5 strokes, right? And I think that's the thing, is like what you said, identifying what those categories are and rounding out those skills, because you're being very intentional about the practice. Similar to what you said around the amateur, is like the bad rounds, you still find a way to shoot 72, 71. And then when you really got it going, you can go low. So, all of that adds up to a scoring average that could be a few strokes lower. So it can be accomplished, but it needs to be very disciplined with a very high level of conviction. So I appreciate you talking about that. So if folks have more questions about this, where can they reach out?
For one, they can reach out on the podcast on Spotify. They can contact me or you or Joseph on Instagram is probably the easiest way. And then through that on Instagram, I have my email too, if you want to send something that's a little bit more formal. I would say any of those ways would be best.
Yep. And also check out the YouTube channel, A. Lewis Golf. A lot of good content there. And if you get a sense of how Andrew coaches and how he works, and he's happy to have a dialogue with you. And I can attest, he's one of the best, if not the best, instructor in the country. So Andrew, I appreciate the time and look forward to next time.
Absolutely, as always. Thanks, Jim.
The Driven Golf Podcast is produced by Joseph K. If you like this episode, like it, subscribe, pass it on to a friend who might be interested. It really helps us out a lot. We'll be back in a couple weeks with the next episode. Until then, remember, in this great game, the journey is the gift. Enjoy the journey.
Yes, Bobby Massa. Yo, what's his name? Yes, Bobby Massa. Yeah, yo, let's get it, master big like a mastodon, blasting on trajectories immaculate to pass. Casting stone from Dallas streets to Hazeltine greens. I fasten on gasoline veins. No brakes, I'm passing pawns.
I hit the yips, flip scripts, my grip contested. Swing erratic, every stroke feeling tested. Missing big, even Trinity Force felt congested. 154 right, to sauce logo manifested.
Dream shattered, drive scatter, leaving battle scars. Shots patterns like NASA data, trying to map the stars. Fritz snapping, yips back, misses crashing hard. Fairways felt like jail, head trapped in padded bars.
But I'm back, counting stacks, mended broken glass, inflection. My success came from shattered past, mold breaker, shot shaper. They thought I'd never last. Now I'm teaching speed, eating creeds from a distant past.
Yeah, I smash and mash ya. Why they asking who the master? Fastest on the scene, now I'm moving past ya. Win the mid-air to the masters, ain't nobody faster.
Yo, what's his name?
Yes, Bobby Massa. Talking golf swing, yeah, I'm moving like a symphony. Each ball's a fastball, call me Bobby Synergy. Yeah, my swing speed unlimited like infinity. Stated AM, USM, mid-am, that's my trinity.
Still will, like a drill, he's spinning through dimensions. Mention tension, he's benching legends in these sessions. Progression's real, every driver fight up to ascension. They gas him, but he passing, moving past their comprehension.
Yeah, I smash and mash ya. Why they asking who the master? Fastest on the scene, now I'm moving past ya. Win the mid-air to the masters, ain't nobody faster.
Yo, what's his name?
Yes, Bobby Massa. Yeah, I smash and mash ya. Why they asking who the master? Fastest on the scene, now I'm moving past ya. Win the mid-air to the masters,